what has the current situation brought to you as far as a desire to move forward, if anything? Hey everybody, David Nagel here, and welcome to What's the Truth? Today, my guest is Christina. Christina, how are you?
I'm doing well. It's so great to be on your show. You came on Savvy, so it's great to have you. It's great to be here with you today.
My pleasure, my honor, actually. So welcome to What's the Truth, and what can we do for you today? How can I help?
Yeah, I was telling you just before the interview a little bit. I had started Savvy broadcasting about 7 years ago, and it was primarily a marketing tool for my financial consulting business. And I had a welcome surprise when after 6 months, I grew to 45,000 listeners. I wasn't even trying really hard. And then it grew to 70,000 by the end of the year, and we started accepting sponsorship. So it was a really happy surprise, and one of which I found that I actually enjoy doing better than financial consulting. Now go 7 years out, and about a year and a half ago, numbers started to plummet. I'm not sure if the content was not what people were looking for. There's a lot of people out there doing this. So now I'm looking for a way to use my skills as a speaker or speaking and interviewing and find a way in which I can serve people and have a good business model that can grow, because right now it's just not good for looking for sponsors.
Gotcha. So any idea what happened? Like what caused it to start plummeting? Was it a change in like the economy? What happened?
Yeah, my perspective is that after the election, I started to see a lot of heat from, both sides on both political arenas. And I said, okay, people are coming on my show and they're actually talking about politics and talking about their point of view. And so I said, well, why not just do a separate show that within Savvy called Heartbeat of the World, where we talk about difficult subjects, but, from a no judgment point of view. We just have people share their perspective and we can all learn from it. And so that started it. I started getting more of a certain type of perspective and less of others. It was more, I guess, right-leaning, less of any other kind of leaning. And then within 6 months, I started to see maybe a big drop in numbers. And then I dropped that, saying, okay, maybe this isn't working. My actual listenership is not too jazzed about this content. So yeah, now we went back to business, but we also took an 8 months hiatus as my husband went through a couple surgeries. So that probably didn't help.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is it currently rebuilding?
It's building, but slowly. It's nowhere near where it was. I mean, before, on its heyday, it was doing 300,000 easy. And then also we were on AM/FM, and that was a reach of 3 million. So now the downloads are 10,000, and that's like nothing compared to like when I first got started even.
Gotcha. And are you on AM/FM at the same time now, or no?
No, I'm not anymore. No.
You're not.
Mm-mm.
Okay. So what do you ultimately want to do?
What I really want to do is use my skills in a way that can benefit everyone and that it can be useful to business owners. And what I'm really good at is pulling out other people's messages and helping them get it out there. And my, really I do it through interviewing. And so I'm really good at getting people's message out in a concise manner and getting them understood in what they do.
Okay. But you're not doing that through your show, correct? You're
Mm-hmm. What do you mean?
Right. You're not pulling people's messages out through your show?
Yeah, we do that. I mean, when they come on and talk business and they share their expertise, I help them get out what they're doing and how their expertise helps people. Yeah.
Okay. So, all right. So, and so when I hear you say you help people get their messages out, so there's getting the message out through the medium that you have to get it out, but there's also helping them get it out in a way where they can express it, they can go do something on their own, and you're not talking about the second part, right?
No, just the first part. Yeah.
Okay. In what other ways could you see yourself doing that?
See, I started to examine that this past year, and so what I decided to do, I had written a book 10 years ago. Actually, it was a blog, 101 Mistakes on What I Learned in Business. It was back when I was in corporate. And I came up with all these mistakes I made, and here's what I learned from these mistakes, so as not to do them again. And people liked it a lot. I got 20,000, 70,000 hit on some of the blogs, written blogs. And so I decided to put that into a book 4 years ago. Didn't move on it, didn't take it forward. I decided this year when I wasn't moving with the radio, I said, okay, maybe this can be an avenue where I could not only get my message out and get people to know, okay, I'm here to help you, but share these lessons and bring to the table people sharing their lessons. So I published a book last month in March.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how's the book doing?
Well, it came out the week that COVID started, so not too good. It's made mediocre sales, very minimal sales. But I've done 7 radio shows, podcasts, and my goal was to hit 100 podcast radio in the next year in hopes to really push it out there.
So have you thought about changing your message in a way that fits what's happening now and where people are going to be going when this is over, when the COVID situation's over?
No, I hadn't contemplated that, how to put that in there with that. I was kind of hoping we could let go of that and move on without COVID, but maybe not.
Yeah. Well, here's an interesting thing about it, though. I mean, what's fascinating about what's happening right now is it's changing people's mindset around just about everything in life, because nobody really ever imagined that we would take something that was basically the theme of a horror movie and it would actually become some kind of reality in our world. So, I mean, I'm only asking the question from like, what are you currently contemplating? Because it's causing people to think about things, at least from my perspective, and a lot of people that I'm talking to, that they've never really thought before. And I think that there's for a lot of individuals, they're looking at their lives very differently. It's kind of forcing them to look at their lives very differently, where they probably most of these people wouldn't have contemplated it before at all. They would have just kept moving in the same direction that they're going.
Yeah.
The idea, though, I think, is that what has the current situation brought to you as far as a desire to move forward, if anything?
Well, at the present time, with a lot of the fear going on, what was prominent to me, I had left to do some push of the book in Houston. I was on a radio show there. And then when I came back, everything began to shut down that day. And what I felt in the streets here in New York was an intense fear and uncertainty. What's going to happen? And I remember, because the whole book, my book, 101 Mistakes and What I Learned, that's what the premise that it was put into. It's called Having It Made. But the whole premise of the book, basically, when you get to the core of it, is really a lot of the fears I was dealing with that stopped me from going forward in business and making these mistakes over and over again. So I started to say to a lot of people around me, hey, I think you need to read this book. It might help, because, this fear is not something that just comes about with COVID. It's comes about all the time in our life from different circumstances. So I'm feeling like the core of this event is really fear.
Yeah, it totally is. It absolutely is. And people are I was talking on a program a few weeks ago, and I was saying, one of the interesting things is that there's so many different unknowns that people are faced with, that there's fear in almost every direction for a lot of people. And they just don't know which way to go. And nobody has any experience as far as to say, well, here, I'm certain that if you do this, everything's going to be okay, because that currently does not exist. So it causes a lot of anxiety for other individuals. And I think that it might be a really great time for you to work off of that premise and rebuild, because people are looking for a way to express what's going on with them, a way to communicate, to bounce ideas back and forth. And I see that people are using a lot of their platforms to rebuild community and tribe and help people come together in a direction that will probably take on a very different structure once this is all over. But being that you have such the presence out there that you've had over the years, I would think that would be a really great place for you to kind of to put your voice in the middle of it and say, hey, let's talk about something. Let's bring something to the table that we can talk about and hopefully pull something out of the discussion that benefits everybody.
Yeah, I like that, David, because what I'm getting here is you can pull all sorts of people. It doesn't matter what business you're from. We're all dealing with different outcomes of fear and uncertainty. How are you responding to it, and what's your take on it? Because we can all help each other get through it, because fear is fear. In my book, when I talk about how I was so fearful and I finally went through and did certain things, it was the uncertainty of not knowing what was on the other side of that fear that keeps us from actually doing it.
Yeah. Exactly. And the whole idea about this situation that we're in is that it's kind of flipping the tables on business right now. So you can have businesses that were really solid, established, and because they've become non-important in the moment, they're virtually gone as if they hadn't existed. There's no place for them to get a foot in anywhere. So everybody's having to I mean, if you're not an essential business right now, right?
Mhm.
Everybody has to rethink how they're delivering what they do and how they're meeting the needs of
Mhm.
other individuals. And because people don't, if you didn't have some kind of a network of information coming in before,
Mhm.
you're basically stuck with the news and whatever way that they're actually delivering that. And there's not a whole lot of positivity going on out there. So I think with all the things, with all the expertise that you have and your own opinions and the opinions of other people that you've had for so many years
Mhm.
doing this, that you could really bring a richness and a new direction to your own show.
Well, I love that you mentioned this, David, because right now I won't turn on the news because you just turn it on for 5 minutes. It's like gloom and doom, the world's falling apart. I've been listening to your show and a couple others that are super positive because the positivity, I think, will help us move through the fear instead of just focusing on the negative.
Yes, absolutely. And the numbers for those things are going through the roof.
Mhm.
So our listeners doubled in like the first week that we started, that we kind of gave redirection to what we were talking about. And the numbers are still climbing vastly. So it's, all I thought was, hey, how can I be part of the solution? How can I take what I do and be part of the solution?
Mhm.
And I think that if anybody that's in a situation that has the skills that we do and the platform that we do, if you do that, you're going to bring your own tribe into that, and it's going to spread, because it's not like I had any other way to reach out to these other individuals. It's spread by word of mouth.
Yeah. Yeah,
That-
absolutely. And you'd mentioned that it does make sense because one thing we had done prior is do some live events with networking. We would interview people live in a live space and then have an a networking event for business owners. So it was yet another way for us to physically connect. But maybe we want to take that online in some fashion, interview, but have it be a live chat where people can connect and converse afterward.
I absolutely would do it. I would totally do it. And then I would pay really close attention to how we're coming out of this, because this is going to go on for a long time. This is nowhere near being over. So, I would really pay attention to how you're coming out of it, and then be very sensitive to the needs of what your audience is saying that they need, and then see where you can meet that. And I think your numbers will be higher than they were before.
Oh, that sounds awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you, David. This makes a lot of sense.
You're very welcome. I hope that helps.
You betcha. Thank you so much.
Thanks for being on the show. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Thanks for joining me. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And if you have any questions or comments, leave them below and let's continue the conversation.